front. And obviously, if you're up front, you can kind of turn around. And so we're going to use this to remind ourselves where we left off yesterday as a means to finish up our conversation. Caleb, maybe you want to hit the light so that we can see? I think that, yeah, that's good. I think I should actually go back a little bit more because our conversation... No, before this?
Well, the coordinate you gave us, that's fact, right? They went from negative conditions to better, and that's because we went backwards in the test. So what I want everybody to do is look at the test. What is Amundsen describing in regard to the weather in the test? The question was, how does he describe? We've got some details for that, right? But how does he describe as we're looking at
Okay, and that's where we left off. And this is a different class, so let me pause there. So we were talking about the question that Rishi posed, and we were not done with the conversation. The reason why being that the question wasn't really answered, right? How does Roald Amundsen describe the weather in the text? Well, we knew he described the weather, as you just saw in the video, in a positive way, and he described it in a negative way. But I think we were a little bit confused about how exactly the weather changes over the course of the text. And Nayeli was making a point at the end of the video, and I know it was a little hard to hear. You're louder than you think in your head, right, than what it actually sounds like when I put it up there. Yeah. Like, I'm sure, Nayeli, you thought you sounded a lot louder than that yesterday, but it was difficult for us to hear when we played it back. So did anybody hear the point that she was trying to make or understand the point that she was making at the end of the text? Nayeli, can you remind us?
Okay, I was saying how that in the beginning, Roald Amundsen felt like worse was going to happen because he didn't know what was going to happen next. But later, once he got closer to the pole, the South Pole, he got more excited and had hopes.
And what happens as a result in his description of the weather? It starts off negative, his confidence is down, as Nayeli just said, and his description of the weather is negative at the beginning. What starts to happen as his confidence goes up and they start to approach the pole? What starts to happen to his description of the weather, I should probably say, as they get closer and start to approach the pole? And I'm glad to see most of you looking back to text 7 to find it if we forgot, or if we don't know offhand, which is totally fine. And I'll just ask again, right? What starts to happen as his confidence goes up and they start to get closer to reaching the South Pole, their actual destination in the text? What starts to happen to the description of the weather? Either as a result of the weather patterns or maybe as a result of his confidence, right? What starts to happen to his description of the weather? And I'm going to give it back to you now.
The weather becomes more positive.
Okay. Do we have details to prove that? That as his confidence improves, so does his description of the weather. Okay, and that was Rishi's original quote. So we know that it sounds like things are taking a turn for the positive there. Can we find more evidence in the text to suggest that things continue to look up for the team as the text continues?
On line 28, it says at 10 a.m. a light breeze had sprung up from the southeast, and it had clouded over so that we got no altitude. But the clouds were not thick, and from time to time we had a glimpse of the sun below.
What do we think about those details? A light breeze had sprung up. We got no noon altitude. The clouds were not thick, and from time to time we had a glimpse of the sun through them. What do we think about the details that Jalen brings up here?
It's positive. I agree.
Okay, so let's note that, right? Things start to look up for the team. And then eventually, what happens to Amundsen and the team in this text? Probably the most positive moment of all.
They end up winning because it's like such a, they woke up to a positive and it ended on a positive.
So where do we see evidence that to support that?
Well, the line that Jalen just read, and when they arrived at the North Pole in like paragraph 3.
Okay, so let's look at paragraph 3, right? And where would we find evidence to support that the most positive thing of all happens here, that they actually arrive at the pole?
On line 40, it says the golden birds was never ended. I agree.
Okay, so we can circle that. So obviously things become much more positive for the team, and the weather kind of matches that. So the question that Rishi asked yesterday was, how does Amundsen describe the weather in this text? And originally we said, it goes from bad to good, back to bad. That was the exact quote from the video. Do we still agree with that now that we've looked at the text again?
No.
Okay, can we come up with then a better answer or way to connect the details? And Rishi, you can do this, or you can call on, somebody in the group can help you with this, or somebody from the class can help you.
At the beginning, it was like kind of negative, but when they reached the pole, it kept on being positive as they got closer.
What does everybody think about that?
You guys all agree?
Okay, so then what should Rishi probably do in his little box there that says how I connect the details?
As we got closer, the weather got better.
Good. Okay, so you can answer it exactly like that, and I can even put it up here for us, right? As the men got closer to the South Pole, the weather improved. And what did you say, Chris? You had like an exact wording.
In the beginning, it was negative, and then when they got closer, it was positive. What do you say, positive?
Lowered. Okay, somebody want to read that for us then? And then we have kind of a new conclusion that we've come to here. And you could certainly take note of it on your papers, I would. And Rishi, definitely maybe make some changes to yours. Does somebody want to read that for us? Somebody who could read right over Haley's fun.
read. Okay. Would make all
As
of
I
it?
got closer to the pole, the weather improved. At the beginning, it was negative, but as they got closer, the weather got more positive.
Can we all agree with that? Okay, so you may want to write it down. Rishi, I would definitely make that correction as well. Did anybody have any other questions for the group or comments for the group? I know the group wanted to make some connections, right, between the texts, so we're going to give them the opportunity to sum things up today. But is there anybody else who had any comments or questions for the group before they went ahead and did that?
So for the conclusion, for text 7, 8, and 9, we just said that it's all about the race. For text 7, it was Amundsen that wrote a text. Text 8 was Robert Scott, and text 9 was also Robert Scott, and they were all in the race together. Not together, but they were just fighting for who actually won. So like the conclusion is just the race, pretty much.
You still use it out. It's up to 11 minutes.
Okay, so was it?